On today's episode of Locked On Suns, the Phoenix Suns stars may have rested on Tuesday night at Footprint Center, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to learn. Let's break down preseason game number 2. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen. Happy Wednesday. Suns preseason basketball back on Tuesday night in downtown Phoenix. If you're finding us for the first time, to get my reaction, to get some content about that game, just hit follow or subscribe. Get the show in your feed every single day from now through the rest of time. Become an everydayer. Get locked onto the Suns right along with me. We're free and available everywhere, including YouTube. So wherever you consume podcasts, wherever you're finding this episode, there's more like it every single day. Today's episode brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase their Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's J-A-S-E medical.com. 115-107 is the final score. No Bradley Beal, no Devin Booker, no Kevin Durant, and on the other side, no Michael Porter Jr. However, still, and no Christian Brown. However, still a pretty intriguing game, a close game, and one that I think there is a lot to learn from. So, let's not get crazy. There are things to learn from. There would have been a lot to learn if we actually saw the best players, but that's fine. Let's just start big picture. We're not going to get fully into the swing of the game recap stuff yet, but small ball and pace are really the things that continue to jump out at me from this team. Now, if you just look at the kind of the team stats in the box score tonight, the Suns only had 19 points off of turnovers. I guess that's not an only. That's a pretty decent number, but it was equivalent to what the Nuggets had. And in terms of fast break points, the Nuggets had 19 of those as well. Suns only had 8. So you probably don't want to look there if you're just trying to make the case that some sort of new era has happened for this Suns offense, but they played fast. I mean, you just watched the game and you could tell that, right? They had 6 steals, 7 blocks. Pretty good. And I do think points in the paint, 44, which was also even with Denver, and 28 free throw attempts. Those are now 8 of those were Nurkic, but those are some of the things, especially from Saben Lee, that I do think do have to do with playing fast. And again, I want to differentiate. When we say fast, we're not always talking about possessions per game. Like, that's what pace is if you look up the NBA stat of pace. I'm talking about playing quickly, playing with pace, even if it's not purely a fast break, right? Making quick decisions, attacking in semi-transition, just beating the defense before it's set. That's going to be a hallmark of this team, and we saw it again tonight, even without the star players. And I think somebody like Saben Lee benefited quite a bit and will continue to, in my opinion. I don't know if he's going to get regular season minutes. In fact, I doubt he's going to get regular season minutes once Jordan Goodwin comes back and the total number of players who are active, slims down from like 12 to, 9 or whatever. But it's just going to go a long way for anybody who can fit into that mentality and that aggressive mindset, and Saben Lee did tonight. Small ball is the other part of this, though, right? I just continue to be surprised, but at a certain point, maybe today can be the day I stop being surprised, because once again, you saw Yuta Watanabe be basically the Suns basically handled today's game with a starting lineup that was most similar to their actual starting lineup, and that meant guys who are technically higher in the rotation than others not actually starting. So let me get that cleared away first, right? Like Eric Gordon was still off of the bench tonight. Yuta Watanabe still off of the bench, and then you had guys like Chimezie Metu and Saben Lee starting. Still, we watched the Suns engineer a pretty small rotation. Now, I understand Metu started. That's sort of the Durant starting thing, right? But beyond that, you saw Gordon. You saw those guards. Allen, Okogie, and Lee played a lot of minutes. And for the most part, this team played small. And Watanabe, to return to my original point there, was basically the only bigger wing who was part of the real rotation. Now, with that said, obviously, Keita Bates-Diop played decently well, had a couple of nice drives, I thought, especially against Zeke Naji. And we all, I think most Suns fans and followers, believe in Keita Bates-Diop to potentially even be the third starter on this team. The fifth starter on this team, right? Maybe. At the 3 is where I got the number 3 there. I think KBD can be that, but he doesn't seem to be there now, and even with the solid performance tonight, at the end of the day, 4 of 10 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, you got to make your threes to play, and obviously we know Utah's going to do that, and Gordon, Allen, etc. are going to do that. But, just to hammer the point home here, you can be excited about Utah, about Nasir Little, about Keita Bates-Diop, about Bol, who I'll talk about later a little bit. But even Chimezie Metu, maybe he's one of the guys that slowly starts to change this, or maybe he actually ends up passing somebody like Nurkic in the rotation. I don't know, but the point that I'm making is, no matter what angle you look at it from, no matter how excited you may or may not be about different personnel, the Suns are showing us they're going to be a small team. Somebody like Grayson Allen is already at the top of this rotation, outside the starting lineup. He is going to be right there in terms of minutes played with Eric Gordon, I think. Even though those guys do similar things, so be it. I think the Suns are showing us they're both going to play more so than these forwards are going to play. That's fine. That's an identity. That's called playing to your strengths to a degree. That's called playing to your certainty for sure. I think we all feel more confident in Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon doing their thing than we do Nasir Little or Keita Bates-Diop, who are much more unproven players. But it's still a pretty interesting choice, considering we already thought size was going to be one of the weaknesses of this roster, and considering that, you don't have to look much further than their opponent tonight in the Denver Nuggets to, see a team that is going to challenge you if you play small. The Suns have a whole season to tinker. They have a whole season to experiment. But right now, heading into the regular season, that's their MO. Play small, play the smaller wings and guards much more than the bigger wings and forwards. We'll see how it works. Let's go through some of the breakout performances from tonight's game. Guys who raised our eyebrows, did a little something we weren't expecting, starting with none other than Bol. Next, first today's show brought to you by Jace Medical. Don't be caught unprepared. Everybody should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected, and with a Jace case, you can. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All you got to do to get one is fill out a simple form, maybe jump on a quick call, then they mail it to you. You get that basically first aid kit for antibiotics, so you have the peace of mind, and Jace Medical provides you ongoing care from their physicians on any treatment-related questions. Jace Medical and their Jace case, doctor-created, doctor recommended. To get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical, use the code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk breakout players. That's really what a game like this is about. So let's start with Bol. I thought he played pretty well tonight. I thought that he was pretty unselfish. I thought that he fit into a team context. And I thought that he provided relatively positive impact while he was out there. Now, the bar is low. And of course, we're going to pay attention to somebody like him more than others. He had a bad turnover with the behind-the-back pass. He, Even the three he made was a little flashy, a little bit of the bad habit stuff. But, I guess if they go in, you got to pat him on the back. And defensively, they're having him be more of a center than I think I remember him being in the past. Just somebody who's sort of dropping back and walling off the rim rather than being a help defender, playing a zone, some of these things. Now, I thought he contested shots well. He only had one block, but I counted at least 2 or 3 plays where he, caused a ball handler, a driving scorer to second guess themselves and either not take the shot or alter their angle or whatever. And that's what you want him to be doing. And I think it's a good starting point. Chimezie Metu was the other one. Now, of course, again, got the start tonight. 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 on the offensive glass. And I think most importantly is the offensive rebounds that I just said, as well as the fact that he made 2 of his 4 threes. I believe he was 2 of 3 from deep in the previous game. Now this. So, look, I am uncertain of exactly what Metu's role will be in this game. On this team, sorry. But you can't deny the fact that he's acquitting himself pretty well. He's playing pretty well so far. And he does bring something that nobody else on this roster has. They did sign him in the opening days of free agency for a reason. And I think if you're making the case for the versatility and the offensive firepower that this team will be able to put out there, 1 through 15, frankly, but definitely 1 through 10 in an everyday rotation, Metu does fit that. He can play in big lineups as he did in the starting lineup tonight. He can play in small lineups, which might feature him at center or him at, kind of a combo big man spot with somebody like Bol, somebody like Durant, even maybe somebody like Eubanks, who's a little undersized too, but is a more traditional big. You could see it in any variety of ways. He has instincts as a help defender. That's always been what he's best at. He's small enough that you could probably switch him. And if he can make threes, we know he can also put the ball on the floor. So that starts to make him harder to guard, right? That just makes it so that you can't sell out to contest his shot because he can then attack the closeout. You can't necessarily play for a role if he might pop, all these different things, right? So he's just a talented player. He was a first-round pick for a reason, got a second chance in Sacramento for a reason, and is playing well so far in the preseason for a reason. It's going to be hard for him, like I just said, but all you can do is play good basketball when you get the chance to do it and hope for the best. The other guy, and I'm going to keep hammering this one home, is Josh Okogie. 3 assists tonight. He did make his threes. That always helps. It's funny with him because the form is always good. Like, it's a little bit, it's a little catapulty, not unlike Saban Lee's. But look, if you're not a great shooter, I would think getting back to the basics is probably the best course of action, all things considered. So I don't fault him. And when they go in, just like I said with Bol, you give him the pat on the back and keep it moving. But again, to return to the stuff that matters. 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 assists, got an offensive rebound, and just look confident with the ball in his hands. And yes, the 3-point shot is obviously the biggest thing, but continuing to see him not only dribble as like a straight-up initiator, almost like a point guard at times, but also just have comfort when he has to make decisions and dribble and do that type of thing is just going to go a long way, whether that is making him more of a versatile cutter, whether that is allowing him to attack closeouts when they do come, which might be rare if he's not going to make his threes, but still is valuable. And then, of course, as an actual initiator, which you even just think back to, the Chris Paul days when we saw guys like Jay Crowder taking the ball up, and obviously what we know this team is going to be, which is a multiple-headed monster at all times. Okogie being another element of that, being another head of that monster, is just going to be that much less predictable for this team. So it's all good. It's all trending in the right direction. At this point, I don't know how you could think anything but that Okogie will be the 5th starter on opening night. Now, there's a long way to go till April, but it seems like he has that spot now. He's playing well enough to continue to earn it, and who am I to deny that any of that for him? I mean, great, and he does fill a valuable role in terms of his point of attack defense and turnover creation on the defensive end. He plays bigger than he is, so even though it's not necessarily, your normal forward, he can defend those guys, and he makes plays, so got to put him in the game at a certain point. Let's wrap things up talking about shot selection here in this one and an overview of the characteristics of this Suns team and how different they are than the last one. Next. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, where you can snap into action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, all season long. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed the minute you place your own $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose, all for the price of a normal $5 bet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. There are already opening night odds in the NBA. We also have WNBA odds. The Aces are favored by nearly 6 points, 5.5 points. And then, of course, the big show in town right now, the National Football League, where the Cardinals are 7-point underdogs on the road in Los Angeles. Maybe you want to avoid that one. We'll see how they fare. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season right along with them. Get that $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Let's keep it rolling. I tweeted out a shot chart of the Suns, and I don't want to overreact to 2 games. I understand that the Suns starters are going to shoot different types of shots than these backup players, these role players did in this game. But tonight's shot chart was almost entirely shots at the rim and shots from 3. They put up 35 threes out of 77 total shots. That is like a 47% three-point rate. The Nuggets were similar. Again, some of that is what happens when you play role players a lot. Guys like Yuta, Okogie, Metu, Reggie Jackson, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson start chucking. That happens. But on the Suns side, that is frankly a breath of fresh air. That's just not what happened in the past. And if I'm looking at the previous game against the Detroit Pistons, it was more varied, okay? But meaning the star players did take mid-range shots, okay? But again, the Suns took 95 total shots. 37 of those were threes. They also got to the line a ton in that game. Eubanks is a guy who I think is going to live at the free throw line, and a lot of the guards on this team have been really aggressive. Saban got to the line 6 times against Detroit. Gordon 4 times. Beal 4 times. That's good. So, yes, I'm looking, and the Suns had about 10, 15 shots in the mid-range, a bunch of them being the best players on the team. Booker, Durant, I'm just going through it. Yeah, they're all the best guys. Metu has a little bit of a mid-range tendency himself. But the point is, you are seeing a ton of threes, a ton of layups, and I still believe that the Suns will be able to do that this year, even though Beal, Booker, and Durant also like to take mid-range shots. And the way that they're going to do that is the role players are going to be able to get threes up. The tempo and the pace is going to be fast so that it doesn't require breaking down a set defense in order to get to the basket. And this team is just going to be hard to guard. And like we talk about that a lot of the time as it relates to, Durant's just going to ISO. And who are you going to help off? Right? Who are you going to send as a double team to leave somebody open? Nobody, right? But it's also hard to guard in that just a quick, decisive move to score the ball is just going to be that much easier to turn into an actual basket. Like, I mean, that it's just, that stuff is going to matter. And so, yes, it is still their tendency, right? I'm not going to sit here and gaslight you all that Booker, Durant, and Beal don't like to kind of take their time and take pull-up jumpers. Of course they do. But I think this is a trend that will continue based on what we've seen, based on what we know about the way this team wants to play, and everything else. If we look at another aspect of this that I guess I'm more intrigued to see if it continues. The Suns have just been piling up free throws, as I mentioned a couple times now. Now, again, tonight, 8 of them were Nurkic, and, you know, guys like Peyton Watson, Hunter Tyson, even Jokic were fouling a lot. It's not going to be normal. But if that happens, then that's just one more ingredient. The ball is moving, 29 assists in this game against the Pistons, 27, both on about 40 made shots. So that's a really good proportion. I mean, tonight it was 29 assists on 36 made baskets. That's like 90% of the shots of the made shots were assisted. Like, it's just a lot of good indicators. I wish I had a really magnificent, researched thesis statement that I could back up in an essay form for you guys here, but it's just me looking at 2 games of limited data and a few quotes and just feeling good about the the evolution that this offense is undergoing and the results we can already see. That'll wrap us up. Short episode for a relatively quiet game. Hope you are enjoying Suns basketball back. I know that I enjoy not having to watch it on an app. I'll say that. Didn't want to, it's not worth a segment talking about 3TV out here, but look, it's nice. It's nice to just hit the power button on the TV and channel's just on. I don't have to worry about lagging. I don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. So, there's my 2 cents. I'm enjoying it. We'll have another game on Thursday. We'll have Aaron Edwards, there we go, say that name correctly, here at some point this week as well. Let's hope we see the Stars. Sounds like they're going to play at least 2 more times, according to Chris Haynes, so that'll be nice. But enjoy all of it. Hit follow, hit subscribe. Content in your feed daily. That is a promise, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.